Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jack Arral.
Welcome back, Keepers. This is Keeping It Real with Jack Phillips and...
Gabriel Dolan.
Did you notice I said my full
I
name?
did. Well done. Good
Thank
on you.
It's only taken 56, 57
50
episodes.
whatever episodes.
Now, this is a topic that is really close to my heart because I love creativity, but I can't remember why I suggested it.
Yes.
Which is why I've got you, my own little chat GPT.
So just so you know, Keepers, we often come up with ideas for episodes, and Jack comes up with a lot of ideas for episodes, so I write it down, and then we have a, meet and plan the episode, and she'll go, so what was that one about? I go, well, you suggested it, and then she goes, why did I suggest it? And I always have to remind her.
She remembers. She's so good.
Why, yeah, clearly.
So good. She's the brains, clearly.
I'm the brains and the memory.
What am I?
And the humour. What do you bring?
What do I bring to this, Keehlan? So what is the title of this one?
It's creative engagement,
Correct.
I do believe. You suggested this because you came across some data about conferences, and
They are changing.
they're changing, and I've certainly noticed that as well. And they're
goodness.
changing things from, instead of just going and being a talk fest,
Yeah.
so like you just see speaker after speaker after speaker, that's not very engaging.
No,
it's
it's
not very
not.
engaging. So
Not for long,
there might
anyway.
be, I've gone to quite a few events, and might go for 3 days, and they will have a keynote speaker at the plenary, which is the big main stage, and they might have 1 or 2 of them a day, but the rest are really tailored, targeted, curated, niche content. Options, so
Yeah.
lots of options. So, everyone might go and see the speaker, and then there's 4 or 5 different options you can choose where you go for the next event.
cool.
So we were seeing that in conferences, but this episode isn't about just creative engagement in conferences. It's how you get creative with how you engage
others.
people, because
Yeah.
that's engagement's key here.
Engagement is key, and I like how you've kept that broad, Raoul. Before you go off the conference, because we will go off the conference, live podcasts have become a thing.
Yes.
Yeah? So, and I get that. So, we've done an episode already on the number of podcasts that we each listen to regularly, and we like, hoping that the Keepers might get something from that. If I had the opportunity to go to a conference and hear a range of speakers on a topic that I'm really interested in, to know that I could actually go and sit and listen to a live podcast and actually watch one of my favourite podcasters speak, and maybe have the opportunity to ask that person a question live. Wow, what an experience.
Yeah, and we on that, we've both talked about in our podcast episode on podcast, Scott Galloway and Cara Swisher, they're doing some live events, and it's at conferences, right? And the beauty of that is the content is, it's going to be so topical,
fresh
and relevant, but it's going to be absolutely targeted
to that audience.
Your audience, as opposed to, I do
More
a lot
general.
of keynote speaking, and of course I tailor it to my
As
audience
much as you can, but you don't know the entire audience.
Right? And and it's not as interactive. And we've had, last year I had one of my clients ask me to do a speaking gig. And once I found out what they were sort of trying to do, I said, hey, instead of me just coming and speaking what I normally do, why don't I bring Jack along? And we do literally
that was a great gig.
live podcast. And that was so cool. And that ended up being virtual, which was fun.
Which was fun.
But it was us jamming and doing our stuff. Nice. They sort of said, look, can you talk about...
It was very interactive, Raoul,
can you talk about A, B and C, which we did, but questions
were all
from the
coming
audience
in
the whole time, and we are just going, we are going where the audience want to go.
Organically, where the audience want to go. So I guess the point of this is, Keepers, is that Raoul and I love a live podcast. We also can do them virtually. If you're thinking of hosting events for your organisation, for your team, for your business or your brand, then think about people like podcast co-hosts and to do a live podcast. I think it's a smart thing to do.
It's moving away from just the speaker.
It is.
Yeah.
And creatively engaging others. Okay, so others. Those others could be your team.
Yep.
It could be your leaders. It could be your customers. It could be your suppliers. Whoever it is, in order for you to be remembered and to also be retained in some situations, as well as to be inspiring and for people to really want to work with you, be creative about how you engage. Can you think of a brand or a business that is very, very creative in how they engage you? come to mind?
One thing that just comes to mind when you were saying that, and we did a whole podcast on this about Unreasonable Hospitality. At that time, I went to Madison 11 Madison Park. The way they engaged their patrons was just the creativity off the level.
It's just so cool.
That, and again, we've spoken about this. That's the dining experience I will remember for the rest of my life above any other dining experience. I actually can't even remember the food.
No.
But I can remember the way they engaged.
And the way that you were made to feel.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It was Angela Mayo that said, people won't remember what you said, they won't remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Yep.
And that's so important. So when I think of brands in Australia, I think of, brands like Mecca, So, I have been a Mecca fan. I don't go anywhere for my makeup or skincare other than Mecca. I can do it online and it's there in an instant.
Yep.
Or I can go into one of their stores, which is always a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
One of the fun things I love doing with Maddie, and she's in Armidale, so we go to the Armidale store, which is only small, but it's always buzzing with such great energy and such great new products. But you know what I think it is? It's the generosity of spirit in that store.
Yeah.
If you want to try something, if you want to pick up something, you are never scolded or, there's this real generosity. And so I always end up buying stuff. Sometimes I only buy a little thing. I took Mum in there and next thing she's coming out with this crease-proof eyeshadow, which has cost her an arm and a leg. And she said to me, I have never seen anything that feels or looks so good and that colour.
Yeah.
And I said, you won't get it anywhere else.
So I've got a couple of, you talked about Mecca. So Alex, my daughter,
she worked there, didn't she?
Worked at Mecca. And Maya, so in Burke Street, Maya. So for those of you, this is a massive, massive department store. And the whole ground floor is all these different beauty shops, perfume, brands, makeup brands. Like every brand you can think of is there. Mecca is there as well.
Of course.
You go through Maya Burke Street.
Everyone's in Mecca.
Everyone's in Mecca. And you look around the Yves Saint Laurent.
So why is that?
There's just like one or two. In fact, there's no one, hardly ever.
So what is it that they're doing?
I think it's a couple of things. It was like they're trained on this.
Of
like,
course.
People come in, make eye contact, introduce yourself.
Make them feel good.
Can you, not hassle, but if you need help, I'm here. They do lots of little samples. And, they've got so much staff, so you never feel, when you're with someone, you never feel rushed.
No.
And you're there. And it's just the generosity. I remember I was going to New Zealand for a work trip and I was only there for about 3 days and my luggage never turned up.
Oh.
And I knew I was not getting my luggage before. Like it ended up heating up at the airport, right? But I was there for work, so I had to go buy a bit of some clothes. So, but I had to buy makeup. And so I went into the Mecca store. Yeah. Now, because Alex worked at Mecca, I'd text her and go, hey, what products do I have?
Yeah.
And then the woman serving me.
But you could have told the woman your mobile phone number. They probably would have.
And I don't know. It probably was. It probably would have although I think Alex had bought it for me, so it may not have happened. But there was all this stuff. I just wanted some makeup remover, and she went, she goes, how long are you here for? And I go, just 2 days. And she goes, I'll just give you samples.
So again, that generosity.
I was in a position of I needed this.
And I would have paid for it.
And they went, we'll just give you a few samples. And then she said, she goes, actually, there's a few good samples of makeup remover. I'll give you 3 different ones. And you
can try them all.
And their samples are quite generous. Like
So she's been trained in emotional intelligence, particularly empathy. Empathy is a component of emotional intelligence. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody else. How might they be feeling? What might they need? Hang on, this woman's only here for a couple of days. Probably doesn't need to go and buy the whole thing. She's probably got some at home. I'll give her some samples and I'll give her some other variations of those samples so that she might actually be able to find a new product next time.
Yeah.
How good.
Yeah. And this is in a...
That is creative engagement.
And that's in a completely country, in a store. Like, I'm probably never going back to that Mecca store ever again.
So this is product, and obviously we're talking about the service experience that we're getting from the staff in Mecca, which is awesome.
Mecca should be a sponsor, I'm just saying, Mecca.
Mecca, Sarah Fletcher, you've been one of my clients.
Get real.
Mecca, come on, get real. What's another service experience? I'm just thinking for keepers that are working in professional services or working in senior leadership roles where they've got to engage clients or even their teams, what's an experience you've had that again has been really outstanding but has clearly been a bit creative in how they've done that?
With
anything come to mind?
I've got a few clients just, and because I do a lot of workshops, just the way they run the workshops or set it up. So, for example, most of the workshops, we'll just run it in our training room, or we'll run it at a conference centre with a training room, which is fine. Sure. But you know, not
boring.
Overly exciting. I've got one client that sets it up, and they have they have fake campfires and picnic rugs.
Oh, how gorgeous!
And just
they set a scene,
like a storytelling, and I've occasionally you walk in and you go, oh wow, someone's put a lot of thought and effort into how the room is set.
So straight away, you bring to your keynotes and your workshops, because I've been in so many of them, so much energy. Yes, it's so cool from the minute you arrive. But when you walk into a space where they've actually creatively done the environment in such a way, your energy levels must go up again.
Oh,
so how smart. They're getting an even better experience from their facilitator.
Yeah, but everyone in the room
is feeling
just
awesome.
I went to one event, and they often ask me, how do you want the room set up? And I go, look, I ideally just, cabaret styles at tables. So, I don't want like
no.
So they asked me that. So they were doing like a 2-day event. And it was at a hotel, and I walked in, and it was set up like a jungle.
Oh,
like it had nothing to do with me, and it was this jungle, and I walked up, and it was like amazing. And I was coming on after lunch, and they stopped for lunch. And then I saw all the people coming in removing stuff. I go, what's happening?
No.
And they went, oh, you said you wanted to set up cabaret style. Hang on, you never told me.
Jungle cabaret. Jungle cabaret.
They didn't tell me what it was going to be set up. I could make anything work.
No.
But that was so
Why
creative.
wouldn't you take advantage? So what you're making me think about is a finders keepers immersion in Fiji, and how creative you and I are when it comes to taking corporates away for an immersive learning experience that's going to be a heap of fun with cocktails. But we're being quite creative about this. There is no boardroom.
Yeah. And
there is no PowerPoint screens or presentation
We're not sitting in a training room.
No,
and
you're getting a cocktail, not a glass of water. We're going to be moving with some of our engagement. So that's one example of what we're doing with the finders keepers, offsite for clients. So if you're running an offsite, or if you're running something that you do regularly,
like a team day,
to engage teams, think about how creative you can be. And I'm not talking barefoot bowling. Sorry to the barefoot bowlers out there, but
we did barefoot bowling at the end of our little team event, me and the family and Elise. But you know what? I was going to say, ask your employees for input, and Elise suggested.
Well, and then it's all about Elise. So if that's what she wanted,
she'd bring along a little 2-year-old birdie.
Well, see, so that worked, and you all had a lovely time. However, I'm thinking that we could
backtrack there, my friend.
Sorry, Elise, a little bit more interesting than that. But I think what it comes back to is knowing your audience.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're going to creatively engage somebody or a group, what can you find out about that audience that they might not even know themselves about themselves? Now that takes you down a whole rabbit hole, doesn't it?
That's very.
And that's what Madison 11 does. They actually find out a bit about you when you call to book.
Yes.
Or when you book online. They ask you a few questions.
Did that little Kylie quiz.
Wasn't that cool?
If you haven't seen, listen to that episode. Go listen to that
Unreasonable
episode.
Hospitality, it's called. It was a great episode. So know your audience. Be generous. There's something about that generosity, which we were talking about with Mecca. I think that's really important. Yeah. What else can we do to be creative? I mean, it's about broad thinking,
Yeah, so again, I know we last week's episode was on AI and ChatGPT. You could go, I want to run a team day. I've got, 20 people in my team.
Rough ages,
experience.
The objective of this
the
team
last
day
3 years we've gone to the zoo or we've done bowls. We want to make it something different. Get ideas.
But the other thing I would add to that, because it's all about the prompt, which is what you're talking about, is put in there, here's what I want them to feel at the end of it. Here's what I want us to achieve as a group. I mean, get granular and it will spit out not only ideas, but it'll tie them back to what you want to achieve from it.
Yeah, and it's the classic brainstorming. It's like, it might give you 10 ideas and none of them might work, but you're actually, we could do that.
Yeah.
You know, like classic brainstorming.
Yeah, like
an
it.
idea sparks
Like
another
it.
idea, sparks another
Like
idea.
it. I told you I subscribe to a product that gets sent to me at the farm, which is great. And the first time I subscribed to it and I got an email 2 or 3 days out before they were about to take the money out, yeah? Mm-hmm. And it said, your product will be sent to you on this day. We're going to pull out the money from your account on this day. Just want to check that still suits and that you've got that money there and that's okay. And I remember saying to so many people, that is so impressive.
Yeah.
That I feel like they're on my side. I feel like they're making sure that, I can afford this, that I still want this, and that it's okay if I don't.
Yeah.
Now, that's a whole different way of selling, isn't it?
Yep.
And engaging.
And
I was
doing
really
it,
impressed with that.
Yeah, and asking
Transparent.
relevant questions and
like I felt like I was cared for.
Yeah.
They actually care about what I want, not just about them selling another product.
Can I tell you what's not creative engagement that does my freaking head in?
Tell me, Raul, what is not creative engagement that does your friggin'
This
head in?
over surveying.
Yeah.
Like you you order something online.
Yeah.
It gets delivered.
Feedback.
The day later,
Rate me.
it was like, how did you like your product? It was like, mate, I haven't even opened it.
Mate.
And it's on things like order supplements online.
Yeah.
Rate the supplements.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, I'll give it a rating in 20 years' time if I'm still
alive.
still alive. And the worst is Australia Post.
Yeah.
Australia Post.
Could be a sponsor.
They could be a sponsor, and they
Don't
have
bag 'em, Raul.
and they have been very good clients of me in the past. You do not need to send me a survey on would you recommend me
Every
to
single
others.
time.
You're Australia Post. You got a letter delivered and you put it in my letterbox. Would I recommend you to someone else? You're Australia Post. You're the national carrier. It was like, hey, Jack, you need to send a letter. You know what you should try out? You should try Australia Post. Bloody hell. Stop over surveying people.
So that is not creative engagement. That is actually
Oh,
turning
you
you
didn't. I
into
got on a rant
into
then.
a detractor. So you did go on a rant. Let's just deep breaths, okay? In through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, keepers, creative engagement. There are many ways to be creative and engage people creatively, and we've bounced all around and given you a few little ideas and hopefully inspired you. But if you've got an idea or you've got a thought about creatively engaging and you think we could do with it or we might like to hear it, please tell us about it. And if you want to be creatively engaged, you better move fast because the Finders Keepers immersion in Fiji is almost full, maximum 20 people, because Raul and I want to make sure that we get around to everybody and do some really great, deep relationship engagement with you. Let us know because we'd love to have you along. And if you don't get on the list this time, we can certainly add you to our list next time. So with that, my friend.
Hope that's been of value. Rate, share, comment.
But don't be like Australia Post and
Don't survey us.
but we're
survey you.
asking you to survey us.
Actually, let's survey you. Would you recommend us to friends? Yes. If so, go do it.
Would you give us 5 stars?
Yes.
Thank
If
you.
not, don't. Anyway, that's another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Raul. Until next time, we'll speak to you then.
Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Raul. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keehlan Ferrari-Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.